my rant on the Batman, because there's been a lot of weird takes on Batman. A lot of folks haven't seen the Batman and they still want to talk about it and they still want to go see it. So here's my thing on Batman. I love the fact that Gotham City had this dark, edgy rain. It was like a character and deserved a lot of that. And I enjoy the fact that it's supposed to be like second year Batman, so he's not really quite sure of what he's getting into. Hey, Dave Verdon says he just watched Ford and Ferrari. Loved it, by the way. Kudos, Dave. Good choice. Ford Ferrari is a great film. Highly recommend. Thanks, Dave, for your comment. Um, all right, so let me get back to the Batman. All right, so I love the fact that Gotham City was basically a character. It was very sort of edgy. It set a great atmosphere, right? I don't diss the movie, the year two Batman stuff, where he's inexperienced, he crashes, which I think is silly because he would have gotten hurt. The suit, the proto suit, proto Batman, Robert Pattinson kind of being on the Smalley side, playing sort of emo Bruce Wayne, but not knowing how to be Bruce Wayne. There's like one conversation and all that. I'm okay with all this if it evolves in a franchise. They're going to have other movies. Other characters were okay. You know, Selena Kyle never really becomes Catwoman. Penguin's kind of Penguin at the end. They keep calling him Oz. So all that's fine. And the Riddler stuff as like the Zodiac killer terrorist doesn't really work for me as sort of like a die hard of the comic books, but it wasn't the worst villain in the world until the third act. So if you don't want spoilers, I'm going to give a little spoiler warning now before I get into the third act stuff where I really get to spoilers. Most of I've talked about is in trailers. You can see the Colin Farrell disappears as Penguin. You can see some of the acting was fine, and all that. Okay, spoiler aside. There's a line that Catwoman says to Batman about white patriarchy, white privilege, and it's kind of like, what? What's happening? And people talk about that, and then the ending, because once you get to the third act, so what happens is the Riddler has finally figured out how to kill his last target, thanks to the Batman. And instead of the movie making any sense of what's next, the Riddler basically just shows up in a coffee shop, just basically just gives up. They were in his apartment, they know everything about him now. They realize he's a streamer and has fans, and you get all this sort of like meta YouTubing, right wing Trumpian sort of innuendo. Nothing I think is said. I think it's just off putting, but I don't think it was anything that bad. Doesn't derail the movie for me. But what derails the movie for me is his master plan is he's put vans around the city. They're going to explode and flood the city, and all the people are going to go to the sports stadium because that would be the only safe place. Up until this point, all of the Riddler's motivation was about going after politicians or high profile people like the DA who are all incredibly corrupt. They represent the worst of Gotham from sort of like a political stance and all of that. And I didn't understand why suddenly now all the innocent people have to die too. Like it was such a weird. There's no real connection there. This was like the Raj Al Ghul, all of Gotham needs to be eliminated, and we'll start over kind of thing, or it'll just be eliminated because it can't be saved. But none of that was handled well, and they missed their boat because there's a comment where they kind of retcon the death of the Waynes and the journalist that was outing. I guess Martha now had sort of a mental illness, and a journalist outed all that. Thomas Wayne goes to Falcone. Falcone, instead of trying to work it out, and it kills the journalist. Well, the journalist's name, Thomas Elliot, is the name of Hush, and there's one other reference to Hush, who is a famous Batman villain, a great story arc. And all you had to do was basically say the Riddler was working for Hush. And so you have this sort of like the Riddler's followers are going to show up at the stadium, they're going to start killing people. And you're like, none of that makes any sense because it was the Riddler. Like all of his motivation just changes 60 to 70% of the film. Maybe it's closer to 80. And then you don't know. But he was working for a bigger person that would have made more sense. And then I don't know. And Batman's motivation completely changes. Like he's trying to say, I can't do this, it's not working. Now he basically becomes a firefighter slash version of Superman. And it just doesn't work. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And the whole ending, you have like, cliche black politician who's basically female Obama. She's so great, and they're gonna try to kill her. And she represents something evil. And I'm like, well, no, she represents hope. I'm cheering for her to do okay. and you have Batman, saving the kid, and it just things on the surface sounded okay, but then when you look at the execution of what it was not, and it really, really, really brings the movie down. The movie for 2/3 or so is really, really good. I'm talking like 8, maybe 8.5. But then the third act, it just creates almost like contradictions. It creates major issues. It creates all sorts of stuff, and it doesn't make any sense at all. Like, who let this get through? Like, I like the fact that the Batmobile is his first try, and it gets trashed. The chase scene that's in the trailers, all that was fine. And I don't mind Penguin's story arc. That's fine. I like all that. It's going to leave him in a position of power, which it should. I hated the scene in Arkham Asylum where he's talking to Riddler because they're just trying to basically do this sort of like subversion of expectations thing, because you want to think that Riddler knows who he really is. And all they're really doing is trying to set up Arkham existing so they can have this like silly, cheesy Joker reference, which cameo thing. Ugh, it was. I do not want more Joker. I hope you don't want more Joker. I want to see them actually dive into the Rogue Gallery, more Batman Detective, better tech, learning to be Bruce. It's like we move forward some, but let's not get carried away. So I can recommend it. I'm not sure I want to recommend it for theater goers because you're talking about 3 hours is long, but there's a little bit more of a spoilery review, if you will. Um, I don't know. I don't know how much spoilery I did last time, but that end. Why? Nobody reads comic books. This is the problem. Nobody cares. So I can say whatever I want to say about Hush and all that, but they don't even. I would be shocked if some of these people didn't know who Hush was. They came out later and said, "I didn't even know who Hush was." I would not be surprised. They were just talking about the video game, right? I wish I had a gamer with me. The Halo stuff, and he was saying, "Oh no, we didn't even talk about all that. That wasn't even point of reference or anything like that." Um, so yeah, I don't know. It anyway, it is what it is. The Batman, it's still out there. It'll be on HBO Max on April 19th. So then I think you'll see a resurgence of people wanting to talk about it because, it'll be timely back. People can see it for free. They can watch it maybe in installments and won't sit through 3 hours straight. So I think you'll see a lot of that sort of pop back up again.
This is Kevin Murphy from Riff Tracks and Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Hey, this is Mark from Casting Crowns. Hey, this is Alan Powell from the film The Song.
Hey, this is Christian Kane.
This is Colin Mockreed.
Hello, everybody. This is Irony Singleton, a.k.a. T-Dog from The Walking Dead, and you are listening to my main man, Brandon.